Michael Schofield sat on the edge of his cot, his fingers wrapped tightly around the makeshift shiv that Fernando Sucre had hastily passed to him moments before. The dim light from the corridor barely illuminated his cell, leaving much of it in shadow. He could hear the distant shouts and the clatter of boots as guards moved through the prison. Sucre was gone now, taken to the SHU, leaving Michael alone to face the impending search. Bellick strolled past the cell, his eyes narrowing as they fell upon Michael.
"What have you got there, Schofield?"
he barked, suspicion thick in his voice. Michael quickly tossed the shiv into the shadows, but he knew Bellick would be back. Warden Pope leaned forward, his eyes reflecting both authority and a peculiar kindness. Michael stood before him, trying to appear nonchalant despite the recent scare. "Pope, I've called off the search in your cell," he said, his voice steady.
"I need your expertise. My wife's 40th anniversary is coming up, and I want to build her a miniature Taj Mahal."
Michael nodded, understanding the unspoken agreement between them. This task could buy him time, a precious commodity in Fox River. Michael approached C-Note, who was lounging against a fence, his eyes always scanning, always alert.
"I need Pugnac,"
Michael said, keeping his voice low. C-Note gave him a long look, weighing the request. "That's a tall order, Schofield," he replied. Michael slipped him some cash, knowing that trust here was as rare as gold. Dr. Tancredi examined the test results, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Your blood sugar levels are concerning," she said, looking up at Michael. He nodded, the lie of his supposed diabetes one he had to maintain. Her eyes softened slightly, an unspoken connection passing between them. John Abruzzi loomed over Michael, his presence as imposing as the shadows in the room. "Tell me where Fibonacci is," Abruzzi demanded, his voice a low growl. Michael remained silent, his resolve unbroken even as pain shot through his foot from the missing toes. Abruzzi smiled, a predator's grin, knowing that patience was a virtue he could afford. Michael returned to his cell, the weight of recent events bearing down on him. He could sense the brewing unrest among the inmates, a storm ready to break. Teabag watched him from across the block, a dangerous glint in his eyes. C-Note, however, approached, slipping the Pugnac into his hand. "You're playing a dangerous game," he warned, but there was a note of respect in his voice. With the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within, Michael knew that every step he took was leading him closer to freedom or disaster. The prison was a powder keg, and he was holding the match.